This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, the book club covering Dead Until Dark by Charlaine Harris, the book upon which the show True Blood is based. In this episode, I enjoyed this so much that I bought the second audiobook, and I'm going to listen the hell out of it. Surprise, Krista, you think you know me? Welcome to Unspoiled Book Club.
I'm so excited, I can't even say.
She starts this off going, I'm going to sit here and be ready for you to break my heart. And I was like, all right, you sit there and be ready for that. I don't know what you're doing, but if that's how you want to spend your time.
I'm so happy. Because I'm like, oh my God, because this is why I like Terry Dresden, and this is like, you know, because he was kind of a female Sookie to me, and like they kind of have the same problems in a lot of way, and especially as the series goes on, but I won't get into that. But oh my God, I'm so happy.
Well, good. Yeah, this was like this was a lot of fun. It was initially when I started like listening to the audiobook, the woman who's doing the narration has like kind of a fake Southern accent that for the first like 2 minutes I was like, I do not know about this. And then it started to really grow on me and gradually became like kind of comforting. The story is just told in like a really engaging way. And I was also really startled, for those of you who have seen True Blood, to how closely it adheres to the book. Like, it really, this was pretty much almost like shot for shot the same story, but I don't mean that in a bad way at all. Like, I haven't watched True Blood in so long that didn't interfere with reading it.
I was actually wondering how you would feel about it, mostly because it's all told from Sookie's point of view. It's first person. And so I started reading the books before True Blood came out, and I had my opinion on it. And I liked True Blood because it opened up the world and didn't give you what Sookie saw. And for as much as she can read people's minds, she is extraordinarily positive and looking to see the best, and she is naive even if she says she's not in the book.
Yeah. There are a couple moments where she's like, well, I guess he just doesn't want me. And I'm like, girl, you saw him almost eat you a second ago. I think it's fine. But
I don't know. Maybe you haven't been there, but when I read it, it was right after I had met my now ex-husband, and I completely related to most of anything she thought.
Yeah, I think I have tended to have like such a power trip regarding dating most of the time, because I have been the person with the upper hand most of the time. So her being like, well, I just don't know where I stand with this, and I was just like, nope, can't relate.
I think you probably had a few more options than Sookie did.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Sookie's deal. Sookie can read minds, and I say can read as if she can control it, which she can to a point, but it takes like an enormous amount of effort and energy for her to shut it off, so that at the end of the day, she's really fucking tired. And this is like, it was sort of reminiscent of somebody who is an introvert having to like go to work and be on all day and then go home and just be like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted by this.
I actually, when reading it, it made me think of folks who have problems with sensory issues.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Because, especially sound issues, because more than anything, you know, it seems to be how she interprets it as sound a lot of the time. And so, or folks who have untreated schizophrenia or any of those other problems that occurred. It's, that's, I think, why she calls it a disability.
Yeah, it's really understandable then when Bill comes into her life and she cannot hear his thoughts, that being around him is like a drug, because she can interact with a person and have like a relationship without having to be on guard all the time. Which it's just the descriptions of when she's finally around him and she can she calls it the wall that she puts up to keep all the other thoughts out, that she can let it come down and not have to constantly be holding it in place all the time. And I feel like it was really well done describing that sort of like relaxation and how incredibly rare it is. And also how when she's tried to hook up with guys before, she's heard them thinking about like her body, what she's doing, and it's super, super distracting and not romantic and not sexy. And so she has never actually had sex, even though I think she would have by now if it weren't for this disability.
And also living with her grandmother probably.
I think she would have anyway. She would have figured it out. And if she's anything like me, like, she'd have found a place. It would have been fine. But, like, it's just, yeah. That's like, I mean, I can't imagine hearing that. Like, that's a literal nightmare.
Yeah, imagine any guy that you're dating going, oh, I was hoping it would be better than that. Like, no, dead. You can go to hell.
Oh, her stomach sticks out a little further than, oh, she wasn't as good at that part. Well, I guess. Like, yeah, no. Oh, my God. I mean, there's always the chance that, holy shit, that was amazing. But, like, not always. So, and I'm sure that you only try that, like, a couple times before you're like, you know what, this isn't going to work.
Sorry, if you're looking at what I'm doing off camera, my cat wants to play really bad, of course, right now. He's been sleeping until now, and now is the time
I think it's talking, because I've noticed my cat starting that. I'll be walking around the house and listening to podcasts and cleaning and making all kinds of noise, but it's not until I start talking that she's suddenly like, oh, word? What's up? I'm just like, no, not for you. Oh, okay, hi. Yeah. Agnes is asking if Sookie's 24. Is she that old?
When the books start, that's how old she is. I could not remember. Yeah, and she's been working for Sam for 5 years, and she's a barmaid, which they keep on saying, which they never used in the show, and she does use the term waitress interchangeably. But as the books go on, I think Charlaine Harris doubled down and was like, "Screw you, HBO." Barmaid.
I like barmaid. It sounds much more quaint, I guess.
Yeah. And it's a very rural environment where everybody knows everybody else.
Everybody knows your name. Boom, boom,
but
boom.
not in a good way.
Yeah, you're not always glad you came. That's for sure.
No. Oh, well, that's another problem. Shit. But yeah, I went there too.
Wait until if you guys are listening to the Doctor Who episode. Jamie could not control herself this past week, and I just I finally was like, all right, podcast is over. Bye, everybody. You'll have to listen for that.
Oh my gosh, because I'm a little surprised because Jamie's usually like, stop that.
Nope, I think I infected her a little. That happens. People record with me, and then after that, it's sort of like, well, sorry I did that to your brain. There it is forever now.
There was no hope with me to begin with, so that works out well. So, yeah. But I was so excited to record this with you because this is something that I've always loved, and then had this question of what would happen if somebody who has only seen the show read the book.
And I haven't seen all of the show. I've seen the first 4 seasons, I think, and then I was like, all right, guys. And I just totally fell off.
There are a couple, like, the last season has some fan service items, not from the books, but just, like, a nice little montage, basically, to Pam and Eric of their relationship through the centuries.
That's cool. Great. Okay. I like that.
And hilarious, especially because they're in different fashions from different decades, and it's hilarious. But But yeah, the show diverges greatly from the books. This first season is shot for shot practically, except for things like Tara being around, who Tara is a character in the books. She's not black.
And like, honestly, you're saying that she's a character in the books. Is she in the first book, though? I don't remember mention of her.
No.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they might have mentioned her for a second as, and Tara was over there and I went to high school with her. As the books develop, you find out that she was really good friends with Sookie, but not to the degree that they are in the show. And again, not black. There aren't a lot of... That was one of the things that Alan Ball, who did the TV show, did a really good job of going, hey, you know what? I grew up in the South. There were black people. Now, in a rural town...
Yeah, the one person still is Lafayette.
Yes.
Which you don't get almost any of him here. Which was a shame, but also I was worried that I was going to be like, well, where is he? And honestly, as much as I wanted to see more of him, I did not miss him as much as I expected, because the story just goes so quickly.
Yeah, and he's actually pretty different in the books. I'll just say that up front, because as soon as you see him a couple times, the fact that Nelson Ellis, the actor who took him on, changed him radically. In a way for the better. Like, it's great that she had somebody like Lafayette in a book where it's a man of color who is gay and non-gender conforming in a book from the 90s. Right.
That's true.
Who, gets to kind of live his life and kind of do what he wants, or at least, seems to be
there's no
happy.
like confrontation in this. Like, there's nobody giving him attitude about who he is. He's just doing his cooking and everybody's leaving him alone, and he's just there's no what do they call that, struggle porn? Yeah There are some people who don't like him or approve of him, and they just leave him be, and he doesn't give a shit. So, all right. So the first line of the book, which is a pretty good line. I'd been waiting for the vampire for years when he walked into the bar. Ever since vampires came out of the coffin, as they laughingly put it, 2 years ago, I'd hoped one would come to Bon Tom. We had all the other minorities in our little town. Why not the newest, the legally recognized undead? But rural northern Louisiana wasn't too tempting to vampires, apparently. On the other hand, New Orleans was a real center for them. The whole Anne Rice thing, right? It's not that long a drive from Bon Tom to New Orleans, and everyone who came into the bar said that if you threw a rock on a street corner there, you'd hit one. Though you better not. But I was waiting for my own vampire. So, there's just so much information in that first, page of just, okay, so... we all know vampires exist now, and they have only recently come out 2 years ago. That's a real short time, which I don't feel like I really grasped when I watched the show how recent it was. And also that they're legally recognized. It's not just oh, by the way, we exist. It's part of a civil rights effort in a way. And how much more it puts into perspective everyone's discomfort around Bill being there and the others that come in who are nesting nearby. Yeah. And it's something that I think that when I was first watching the show, I was just immediately bunch of bigots, but now I'm 2 years ago, how would I be? Don't think I'd be super about it. Don't think I would really be real receptive to undead bloodsuckers who roam the earth, just being well, here we are, so figure it out.
Yeah, the only reason they could come out was because there was synthetic blood now, so what you been doing my entire life up until that point?
Yeah, y'all been closeted this whole time. So Bill comes in, and the thing, she can tell what he is right away. It's not, it's not a secret, really, who's a vampire and who isn't. It seems like some people are better at telling than others, though. Because there were a few people that were oh, he was a vampire? And others are yeah, hello, are you kidding me? So it's...
Well, Sookie can see him glow.
That's right, yeah, that's right.
And And Sam, for reasons we can talk about later, would know pretty quickly. But
so this whole little subplot here was something that I had forgotten about. But she sees this guy and is like really excited to come over and give him a drink, and she sort of tries to like let herself read his mind, and she doesn't hear anything, which is startling. And as she's standing there, she hears there's some dude going, "Don't mind Sookie, mister, she's crazy." And I had forgotten about these fucking two, Mac and Denise Rattray. Their names are Rattray, first of all.
Yeah.
Which is just sort of like, why would anybody? There are a lot of last names out there that I just really want to be like, whose idea was this? Like the last name Whitehead. What a terrible thing to do. Come on. Whiteheads have had to exist as long as human skin. You knew what this was when you did this. Stop it.
How dare you?
But yeah, Rattray. Like, I wonder if it's a variant on another like French last name, but I don't know enough about the language to like even make a guess.
Yeah, there's I know we have some folks who come from French-speaking countries and things like that, but like the only thing I could think of is Rattray, and that's not even close. And yeah, I got nothing. Like, I took French for 5 years. You'd think I know one thing. Nope.
And
I think it's just a funny name because Charlaine Harris is a nut who I should also point out, so everybody in the publishing industry loves her. Everybody.
Yeah. Jim Butcher did like a anthology with her and said that she was just so charming.
Yeah. Like, she's considered, she does different series too. And the characters are actually very different in those series. So she's not always Sookie Love and Light.
I think it's My Big Fat Supernatural Wedding was the anthology that she was in. Was that? Yeah. Somebody gave that to me last Christmas, and I still haven't gone through it, and I should, because it's short stories, so it's a lot easier for me to like do those. So I should read the other one that she's got in there.
Yeah, and the honeymoon one. And I'm sorry to take you off track. It was just, so my ex-mother-in-law is a romance novelist as well, so they've actually talked, and that's why she decided to give me these books as a present for my birthday.
How many are in this series?
15.
Okay, so it's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, and they're not all to the level of this one, and some of them honestly are better. This is not my favorite. If that
does help. Like, I feel like for the TV show, the first season was the best season because it was the tightest and the most had the least continuity problems. But I didn't want to think that was true of the books. I just wasn't sure. So that's encouraging.
No, they just kind of took ideas from the show or took ideas from the books and popped them in. But, for starters, it's always in Sookie's point of view. So there's a lot of stuff that, they just had to flat out make up.
Okay. All right. So she meets this dude, and he is a vampire. She can't hear his thoughts. She's got her eye on him all night, and the Rattrays come and sit with him and are flirting in a way. And she thinks maybe that the wife is a fangbanger, which is what they call women who sleep with vampires. I guess they could call men that sleep with vampires that too, but I never really hear the term fangbanger applied to men the same way.
It goes to both. Okay. It goes to both, yeah.
And Sookie hears, like, I think does she hear their thoughts, like, while she's watching and figures out what it is they plan to do?
She finds out that the reason she knew they went to jail, and she knew that through reading their thoughts, but she found out reading their thoughts that they had gone to jail for vamp draining. So she was like, well, 2 plus 2.
So it turns out that what they're going to do is lure him to the parking lot and then drain him of blood to sell the blood on the black market, because the blood is like a drug to regular human beings. It makes you stronger and faster and more virile and more focused. And as we see later, when she does swallow some or it's used on her, it like heals her injuries really quickly. It makes her look great. Like, but it also seems like it's not addicting, like outright, because when it wears off, she's not like, oh, I need more. It's just kind of like a nice thing while it lasts. It seems like somebody would just get kind of hooked on the effect rather than it being like a chemical addiction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's, again, different from the show.
And she, like, makes her excuses and goes out to the parking lot, and all they've had to do to hold him down is get lengths of silver chain and drape them over, like, his wrists and his legs, because vampires are sensitive to all of the things in this book that they are in, like, you know, the popular lore. Garlic, holy water. Well, does he say holy water? Holy water doesn't work, right?
No, nothing Christian bothers them.
So the silver does, holy water does, sunlight does. Or not holy water does. I just said that. Garlic does.
Garlic does.
Sunlight does. Isn't there one other thing?
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but all those things they can say they're allergic to.
Is it steaks?
And so that's...
Does the stake in the heart work? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
But to be fair, that would work on a human.
Yes, although when we finally see one get staked later, the effect is pretty dramatic.
Yeah, that is...
Yeah.
It's not like
No,
Buffy.
it's not. It's and that's something that I really remember from the show is the like gore. They are really not shy about at all. And it's pretty good, honestly. I enjoy that. Like they just they're kind of like, let's see how fucking far we can take this. So she goes out there and she busts this whole thing up. Like, she gets a length of chain from her brother's car that he uses in fights, which is just such a weird choice to have as your, like, backup weapon. And she hits the dude with it, and eventually, like, they just bail and get in their car, and it's not until, like, they start the car that she's like, oh, fuck. And they have to, like, duck out of the way because the two Rattrays are about to try and run her over. And they leave, but it's like Bill is pretty badly weakened. You know, they only got a few vials out, but the silver really dug into his skin a lot. It burns them.
So she has to like take it off without having it touch him again, and it's this really fine chain. So she's being very careful, but she's also being, you know, for a 24-year-old barmaid, she's being quite bright about what to do with it after. Yeah,
the whole, like, I really like that as naive as Sookie is, she still's got plenty of common sense. You know, like, she's naive about human nature at times, despite hearing some of the worst parts of human nature in people's minds constantly. But she, not only does she have good common sense, but she really gets like spicy sometimes. She really stands up for herself in a way that I admired a lot, because it can be, you know, hard to read sometimes when there's like a woman main character that the author is trying to make sort of relatable. They go too far in making her like passive, if that makes sense. And that's not always true at all, but it's something that I have noticed being like a real pet peeve of mine, where I'm just like, you know, you could say something to them and they don't. And it seems like the only exception to that is when it's like, oh, she's supposed to be a badass like fighter, or, you know, one of the quote strong female lead tropes. Those are the exceptions. But when she's supposed to just be an every woman, she just kind of lets things slide. And I really like that Sookie is not that way. Like, she's restrained a lot of the time, but you can hear what's going on in her head, and she's like so pissed, you know? So I just really enjoy seeing the way that she turns that anger into this really like polite sort of Southern snark, you know? It's just
Don't you go thinking things like that, Bill
Oh my
Compton.
God.
It's so cute. You just go, okay, well, now I have to see if you're okay.
So this confrontation with the Rattrays turns into a bit of a thing.
Yes.
Because when she goes home and talks to her adorable grandma,
I love this grandmother
she's the
so
best.
much. Because you can tell the influence she's had on both kids. Like, I think this is one character where, you know, it's in the book. She doesn't make it all the way through the book.
Nope.
Spoiler. But how Charlaine Harris wrote her is so perfect in showing why Sookie is the way she is, despite all the things, and why Jason is kind of the way he is, because in the conversation that they have that next morning where she's talking to her grandmother and everything, Jason stands up for a girl.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, which is very different than the show, and I was really sad that they didn't do
Yeah,
that.
Jason's... All right, well, we'll get to Jason in a sec.
Yeah.
I want to register how, when I knew this was coming in the book because I remembered from the show. And I remembered from the show because it took me by such surprise. I was not ready for not only the fact that her grandmother was dead, but how it was done. And it, like... it felt like they really established her as somebody who was going to be around for a little while. Like, they did a great job, not like kind of projecting as they do sometimes. Like, oh, you're going to make it seem like she's so important to Sookie so that it's a like heartrending loss and instead it's just, oh, I see what you guys are doing here. And instead they had it be more sort of like Sookie just takes for granted a little. Oh, great, my Gran's here, and she's doing all of the sweet stuff that she always does, and I'm going home tonight, and isn't like, there's no indication to me of the tropes that are usually employed to make us care about a character before they kill them off. So the way that was done in the show is the way it was in the book also. Like, if I was trying to imagine how I would feel reading this if I hadn't seen the show, and I would never have seen this coming at all.
I bawled.
It's awful.
Well, we've both talked about how we were close to our grandmothers. And I was, and it's one of those things where you're just trying to imagine Sookie, who doesn't have anyone else besides her brother, but this woman who's been behind her all the way since she was 8 years old. And done anything to keep her safe and loved and protected, and just to have that gone. Like in the show, the showrunners gave her Lafayette and Tara, and through this, she just has Bill, and that is it.
Yeah, she kind of has what's his name that owns the bar, but I have some feelings about him.
And she also kind of has Arlene. But not really.
Yeah, that's true. So her grandmother is like, part of what I really liked about her is that she's so much more open-minded than a lot of people. When Sookie tells her that she's met a vampire, there's a real just like, no shit, do you think that he'd come and talk at her? Like, it's all excitement and just like, oh, I have never seen one. This will be so interesting. And it turns out, like, he is from the area and knows a lot of the families that, like, fought in the Civil War here and everything. Like, so when she asks, it's just kind of like, well, who knows? Maybe. But it turns out, like, he's the exact right person to come and talk to her. What is it? Daughters of...
Descendants of the glorious dead.
That's the kind of shit that's on the, like...
Oh, I'm making...
There's a huge Confederate monument downtown here, and that, I think, is almost exactly what's written on it when I stop and think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Charlaine Harris is not shying away from how people are down south.
Yeah, I kind of admired that there was no equivocating in the writing. She wasn't like, I knew that it wasn't a great thing, but my grandma... No, there's no, like, acknowledgement of any kind by any character that it's kind of fucked up for us to be as proud of our people as we are for what they did.
Yeah, and Bill Compton, the only reasons he seems to be willing to even talk about it, which he doesn't look pleased when she finally does ask him, is this will make you happy and it'll help me fit into this neighborhood, so fine, fuck it.
Yeah, and I sort of expected Bill to even be like, I wish I hadn't fought on the side that I fought on, but that's never really addressed, you know? I don't know if it is later, but... So yeah, and like, as much as I wish in a way that it was, it would not feel true if it was. So...
Yeah.
I guess, you know?
Yeah, this book is very much a, hey, here's a mirror of what it's like to be a Southern girl growing up in, 1990s, 2000s, rural Louisiana, and how completely stupid you are on some things, and how completely nice and good you are on others.
Yeah, so she goes and asks Bill if he will do this, and he agrees to, like, meet her after work is over at the back door, and I think go over to her house or something and talk to her grandmother about it. And she goes outside, as usual, to go to her car, and he is not there, but the Rattrays are.
And this is this is at 1:30 at night. He doesn't know what she wants from him yet.
Okay, so she wants to ask him, and he said he'll meet her just so they can talk this over. Okay.
Yeah, he has no idea what she wants.
So,
and is not excited that she wants something back.
Right. Although he does acknowledge that there has to be, like, a balance here. Like, he's just kind of like, well, I guess that's how it goes in this very sort of, like, practical way.
Yeah.
So the Rattrays jump her, and initially, as this, like, beatdown happens, she thinks that it's going to be just, like, retribution for her stopping them draining Bill. And then she realizes, as it continues, that they intend to kill her. This is not going to end. Like,
yeah.
And they very nearly do.
Yeah. And it should be pointed out that they had complained to other people that Sookie had beaten them up. So a good probably half the town, not Gran, because Sookie's putting her foot down. Don't you tell Gran, but Jason knows, Sam knows, Jason's whole road crew knows. Yeah,
I love when Jason comes at her and she's like, well, they drew a knife on me. And she doesn't tell him any of the circumstances. That's what, like, how she frames it. And that was like,
that's all
that
it
was
took.
My first moment of like, all right, I like Sookie. She doesn't have to explain everything to him. She can just, like, say exactly what she needs to say to get him on her side, and she's willing to do that, and that's fine.
And they also have that kind of relationship that he's always going to be down on her side in these things.
Yeah, until he's not.
Yeah, well, I mean, the book kind of explains that too. But yeah, so she's getting the shit kicked out of her. She's starting to realize she can't feel her legs. Her stomach feels full, and she's pretty sure it's internal bleeding. I mean, it's a pretty graphic way of what it's like to get beat up.
Yeah, it's rough. And she's almost unconscious, and she hears growling. And thinks that they brought a dog with them. And it's a very muddled, because she's not, like I said, she's almost unconscious, so she doesn't know what's happening. But the Rattrays suddenly disappear. And then Bill is there. And Bill he feeds her his own blood in order to heal her. Because otherwise she would have at least been paralyzed. Like, she's pretty sure they broke her spine, ribs broken. Like, she winds up in the hospital anyway. It's just that the blood that he gave her kept her from dying, right?
That's a different time.
It is? Oh, who?
Yeah. That's at the end of the book.
Who beats, that's with what's-his-face. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's one of the running themes of the series is Sookie gets the shit beat out of her.
Sweet. Yeah, that's, this scene actually kind of reminded me of the scene in Full Moon with Harry Dresden when the crew jumps on him. Because that's another scene that, like, if I reread it, I skip it, because I can't, and I would skip this beating scene, I think, again, also.
Yeah. It's very honest of what it's like to be a human in the middle of people who are much more powerful than you. This is, for the most part, she starts dealing with more and more supernatural creatures.
Right.
That's my shocked face. I put my hands by my head.
Yeah, so in this scene, and it's never really explained in this, like, in a concrete way, but my assumption here is that it's both Sam and Bill taking down the Rattrays, right? So the growl, like, she hears a growling, and that's Sam, and then there's a different type of growling, and that's Bill. But the one that she thinks they brought dogs is actually a dog, in a way.
Yeah, and there's two voices later that she can't tell who the other person is, which also makes sense that it would be Sam since he's a shapeshifter.
Yeah, and Bill never tells her what Sam is, which, like, I'm not mad at him because I don't feel like he's allowed, and it's cool that he kept his word if he promised not to tell, but also the fact that he does know this whole time is really irritating to me. Like, I just get super annoyed by it.
Well, if you think, like, vampires they have heightened senses, so they can probably smell differences. I don't know if this is a huge spoiler, but it's like the trope in every single thing I've ever read about werewolves and shifters and everything, that their body temperature is a bit higher. So he's gonna know immediately anyone who is a shapeshifter or werewolf or whatever in that world, he'll know. So, there's going to be more than Sam. And so if he tells on Sam, I don't think the rest of the shifters in the world would feel safe with the vampire who's going to...
Yeah, true. Out. And he's not like... Because I did think of Sam Merlot as a werewolf until later. And it turns out that he's a were-dog. Right?
Oh, he's aware anything. He's aware anything.
Oh, really? So he can turn into whatever. That's pretty rad. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he picks a collie. He tells Sookie very briefly when she's spazzing the fuck out, because, he finally tells her. But he tells her that he picks a collie all the time because people are the least likely to hurt a collie.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
God, that's messed up, though, because it probably is true versus, like, even a kitten, because people, like, do shit to kittens all the time, which is, like, the worst thing that I don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah, he picks a collie because everybody's nice to him. I mean, collies are really good dogs for the most part, and everybody's seen Lassie at this point in time. That was probably still in popular culture.
You know what? Now that you say that, I do because I had forgotten that. But then now I remember him saying that, like, being a bird is really scary. Like, flying is not super fun, actually. Which I feel like that does seem, because people would say, like, well, if you could have any power, what would you have? And people would say flight, and I was like, no. That could go very, very wrong. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, he's afraid of flying into power lines.
Which is...
I
would also be afraid of fucking predators, There are very few on ground that are going to go after a collie. But if you are a bird, depending on the kind of bird you are, there's all sorts of things out there that see you as a tasty treat.
Yeah. And honestly, I think it kind of speaks to the author that I think she did put that much thought into what should Sam be.
And I was predisposed to like Sam because I find the guy who plays him on the show hot as balls. Like, I don't know what it is about this dude, but he is so fine. And yet, in this book, I can't take Sam. He makes me so very angry so much of the time.
Oh no.
He turns into a collie and lets Sookie take him home and watches her undress and climbs into bed with her. At one point later, after she's figured out that it's him and is really pissed at him, he turns back into a collie and sticks his nose up her skirt. And I'm just like, dude, you need to fucking get your ass in line. This isn't adorable. We know who you are now. Like, stop it.
Yeah, in the show, they actually tone it down where she's about to change and he does the cute doggy paw over his eye thing. And so she calls him a gentleman, which would have been nice in the book.
Yeah. Like,
I forgot about that until I read it again. And I was like, Sam.
So, and like, sleeping in the bed with her as himself and just, like, waiting for her to wake up and thinking it's funny. No.
Oh, no. He didn't mean to. He meant to leave at dawn.
But holy shit, dude, you didn't take any precautions. Does he have an alarm clock? Does he have his phone set? Does he have anything? No, because he's a dog, so he didn't bring that stuff with him.
they also don't have cell phones.
Oh, that's right. But so...
Yeah. But he was supposed to be sleeping on the floor. That was what she told him to sleep on the floor as a dog, and he decided not to. There are other beds in that house, goddammit, Sam Merlot.
And he keeps on trying to be like, well, I just wanted to protect you. You know what? You wanted to be in bed with Sookie. All right? Stop it.
Mm-hmm. It was both, and more one than the other, and we know which one it was.
Cranky about it.
And she gives him what for?
Yeah, she does. I don't feel like he takes it seriously, though. And that was the part that irritated me. It was like, I thought she stood up for herself in just the way that she should, and he does not seem to think it's anything to worry about. And that pissed me off a lot. I think that, more than what he even did, the fact that he had no shame afterwards and was acting as if she were overreacting, that was the thing that cemented it for me, that, nope, don't like this guy.
Yeah, that's pretty much every guy I've ever come across from back then. That was pretty much college guys, if nothing else.
I'm so glad I did not have that experience. But yeah, so I wanted to like Sam, but you know what, Sam? No. Do better.
No. I can understand that. I know all the versions of Sam, so maybe. I want to know what you think later. I'm totally curious now, but
so Sookie gets more and more involved with Bill, and as this is happening, women in town are being murdered, and that's the main mystery of this book, because these are called the vampire mystery series, right?
The Southern Vampire Mysteries. So funny. Why they don't just call them the Sookie Stackhouse books? It was really when I was looking for the books, I was like, "Is this? Oh, I guess this is the same series. Oh yeah, because that's what it says on the Sookie one too." The Dead Until Dark, I knew exactly what title to look for, so there was no. But when I was looking for the second book, in order to get the audiobook of it, I found, and I was like, "Is this the right one?" Yeah. But these women are found strangled, and they have old vampire bites on their inner thighs usually, and so the suspicion immediately falls on Bill, because people are assuming it's a vampire who killed these women, but it begins to be clear that the bites are very old, and that a vampire would not waste a perfectly good meal by letting these women be strangled and not drain them. And it is clear that somebody had sex with them after the fact. Yeah, somebody raped their corpses, if we're going to put that in a less delicate way. I was talking with Sookie. Yeah, but she keeps on phrasing it like that, and I was just like, Sookie, sweetie, it's not sex anymore. Well, she's... no. But... Well, so does everybody else in the town, including the stupid-ass police officers. Yeah, and... But she makes all the police officers very different, too. Yeah, that's something I don't remember at all from the show. How are they different? Yeah. Well, Kenya is very focused internally, because you get to hear some inner monologues, obviously, from the characters, because Sookie can hear them, and Kenya is very worried about making sure because she is exactly the token woman and the token, black woman on the force, that she is perfect at all times. And she also wants to make sure that their investigation is perfect with her partner, Kevin, who is the exact physical opposite of her, and they seem to get along anyway. And Kevin is more worried about what's going to happen to himself, because one of the characters that does end up dead, he had slept with, and then Andy Belfleur is very high on himself and thinks he's better than everybody else. I don't think we get to meet Elsie, who is not Alcide, which is very fucking confusing. Yeah, I don't remember that character. I think it's just Andy Belfleur. And apparently the Belfleurs, have a long legacy of being shitbags, because when Bill hears that name, he's like, oh, really? They're still here? Which I found very funny. Yeah. It is so sad. There's something about, and this is not something that I can relate to in any way, because I've never been in a town where there's a long history of the same family. This is not something, but the thing that I immediately think of is in Anne of Green Gables and the Pye family. Josie Pye is in Anne's class. You've got to read these books. I think you'd really enjoy them.
But
Okay.
there is a family, last name Pye, and they're just considered to be sort of like garbage people. It's not like they're like, trashy exactly. They're just really out for themselves and like gossip and make shit up a lot and very petty. And everybody just sort of knows that this is the truth. And it's like one of those things that in the books you're sort of waiting for her to be like, but it wasn't true and everybody was just prejudiced because of their name. Nope, they are always that way.
It was. Yeah. When it comes, if it's one thing, if it's like a stereotype about an ethnicity or a race or a religion or whatever, but once you get down to how families are raised, it's only when you hit a black sheep that they're going to be different than how their family expects them to be.
Yeah.
Which is Buffalo.
Which is Buffalo?
So this kind of shit happened all the time with my grandparents. Like, they would talk. My grandparents knew a ton of people because my grandfather had been involved in politics and wasn't an attorney, more Atticus Finch than, say, think of any TV show where there is. Yeah. But he knew a ton of people from it. And so my grandma she was the most extrovert that ever extroverted. Like, a trip to the grocery store for 3 things would take 3 hours.
My dad was like that.
So she and her friends would talk. She had a club for her friends from high school and a club for her friends from the college her uncle forced her to go to. And they would talk about, what do you expect from a Cullen?
Which is amazing that you just used that last name because we all know about that family. Am I right? Fucking Cullens, you are not welcome in Bon Temps. I do have to say that the name of the town being Bon Temps is so goofy. Like, it's just like, and she says it, with the proper accent and everything in the books, and everybody else says it, and I'm just like, it just sounds like nonsense. It doesn't sound like a real anything. Like, if I hadn't seen it written down before I started listening, I would be baffled by the sound people keep making. Bon temps. Well, they're new here in Bon temps. Like, it's just bananas to me.
This is the second set of audiobooks I ever got, and my ex-husband would randomly blurt that sound out just to make me laugh. He's like, so, are we bon? It just would have nothing to do with what was going on.
Like, it's because I know it means good times, right? Like, it's part of what they say supposedly at like, what do you call it? Not Fat Tuesday. That's Mardi the one. Gras? It is.
I'm a whole 30-second French, so clearly I'm on it.
Anya says, actually, bon temps is the right pronunciation in French. You don't say the P in... No, they don't. No, like, it's just bon temps.
Yeah.
Which is what makes me, crack up. Bon temps.
Yeah, and they did it in the show, too. Yeah, Voldemort. Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, these girls are turning up dead, and it's really interesting to read this knowing who did it already. Like, I don't think that takes away from anything at all. In fact, it was really compelling to me trying to imagine how I'd be approaching this if I hadn't read it or didn't know, and what care she takes to just have... What is the guy's name who does it? I keep wanting to say Pierre. That's not it.
No, Renee.
That she keeps him on just enough of the outskirts that he just doesn't attract your attention at all. It doesn't even, like, enter your head. And that's, I feel, a pretty accurate, like, depiction of how that kind of shit turns out for a lot of people. When somebody does shit like this, it seems like everybody in the town that gets interviewed is like, well, I didn't really know him that well. We'd see him around and he'd be here and there, and that's exactly what this is like.
Yeah, and he does this perfect thing where he has made his head complicated, which she says is normal, that people don't think about the bad things they've done. And they just put it away in a box, and that's exactly what he's done, to the point where he's faking an accent.
Yeah, the fact that she talks about how he put everything he did in this separate container, basically, and filed it away, that feels like such a human thing. That doesn't even feel like, I'm guarding myself against this woman that I know can read minds. That is a thing that we as people do. We think of things that we have done that we are ashamed of or regret or anything. And this guy doesn't even...
What are you trying to make me say, Natasha? That is it. I drank a few beers one time. I am going to just come after you.
She's hanging up, guys. She's losing it.
That's
but
it.
like, what's compelling about this is, like, I'm thinking about it in those terms of things that we're ashamed of. He's not ashamed of this. It's just that he keeps it separate from what he believes his life is. Like, there's a whole other person inside, almost, you know?
Yeah, it's especially because you see, although he's on the periphery of everybody that Sookie loves.
Right.
Like, he is almost her brother's best friend, or at least one of the best friends he has. Arlene, the other waitress in the bar, whom she knows well and babysits for Arlene's kids. Arlene had been married to him before.
Right.
They got divorced. These aren't his kids, but he is good to them and wants to get married to her and all these other things. And so his impact on her life is huge, even if he hadn't done terrible things.
And there's like a moment in the beginning where she thinks about how Arlene is still like has this soft spot for him and that she doesn't really get it. But it's not like I think that he's a bad guy. It's more just like, what's the draw here? Who fucking, like, what?
Yeah.
And that feels, again, very real to me. Just somebody that it's not even like they're actively offensive in some way. It's just more like, what do they even have to offer? What are they bringing to the table? I don't get this.
I'm assuming the D.
Yeah, right?
Honestly.
It's gotta be.
Because she doesn't, because Arlene, probably says stuff that Sookie is just like, oh, look at that going over my head.
Probably. So this dude, and this is another thing that I really like about her seeing his mind later when he's coming after her. She sees herself in his head, dressed way more revealing, with this sort of like come hither leering attitude.
Vampire bites that are like gaping.
Yeah, like he sees her in this way that is just a fabrication. And a complete exaggeration and fabrication of what's really there, which I found very compelling, that idea, because that's not something that gets really explored with anybody other than him, is whether or not they're images of people and they're like, I'd be interested, for example, to see what Sookie sees when she looks into the mind of a racist, like how does he view people? But that really, for some reason, stuck with me. That moment of her seeing, oh, this is what he thinks I am. And that must be what he thought all of the other girls were also, like...
Yeah.
And
he's somebody that it's the only time in the book that she really wants to know what's going on in his head. Like, even when she's pulled someplace else to force to do it. This is the widest net she's ever cast.
And he can feel it. He tells her that he can feel that she was in his head, which is, I'm very curious what that means. Like, what does it feel like? But obviously he is in no state to explain that. But the other girls that he went after are both, there's one woman that she worked with. Well, actually, does she work with both women? No, one of them. Okay.
No. Maudette tried to get a job at the restaurant, but she worked at the gas station, and she's the first one that dies, and that's the one that Jason sticks up for when Sookie's grandma starts kind of talking about how nobody says the word slut, but it's pretty much implied, and Jason's like, no, you back off. That's not.
And
that's
he
not
says
nice.
that he thinks that she was lonely, which when he says that. like Sookie has kind of a rush of like affection for him because she feels like he's got some insight here that she doesn't see from him very often. Her brother's a bit of a simple creature.
He is and he isn't. He's very, I think he has his own box of where he's put all his feelings all his life because of when he lost his parents. Because their parents died when he was 10 and she was 8. And, it's pretty obvious he's always been somebody who attracts people to him. She mentions that people just kind of flock to him. And so,
he's extremely good looking. Like, good looking to the point that she acknowledges that's probably going to ruin part of his personality because he's able to get his way so easily, so often that it doesn't he doesn't understand what it means to not get what he wants, and he gets really cranky about it. He's a bit spoiled, in other words. And her grandmother acknowledges that and is like, I love that boy to death, but brother, which I really appreciate that grandma acknowledges and understands this.
Yeah, and probably he was already that way because he was already a beautiful child up, till he was 10. And, I'm trying to remember what's in this book and what I'm wanting to say.
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin anything for you.
I know
so
some
I'm
things,
my mouth shut.
And Sookie, of course, also is super attractive, but does not seem to be aware of it or play it up as much as she starts to when she's dating Bill. Then she's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to wear this short skirt. I'm going to put a little bit extra lipstick on. And she goes to get her check one day when she's dressed up for a date with him. And every guy goes, like, the fuck? As she walks in. And Sam has his back to her and turns around and kind of has to steady himself. I just love that whole moment. I remember when I used to be able to do that to a crowd. Those were the days.
And this is back when she's not sure if Bill likes her because he is taking it extraordinarily slow with this girl who is clearly
he has all the time in the world. He don't need to rush.
And I think he can tell, she said that she hasn't been on many dates, and she has said when he was hurt that she doesn't have a sex life. So, he doesn't know why, but he's being very patient in his own way.
And I love, too, that what she's wearing in this scene, she's wearing, this, white dress covered in cherries or something.
Little red blossoms,
And she's got, a red purse and heels and big red plastic earrings. The outfit sounds fucking great. But it's also so completely the opposite of what everyone's wearing at the bar they wind up going to. Because they go to this place, it's called Fantasia, that's a vampire bar that is filled with wannabes wearing black lace and leather and fucking, PVC corsets and shit like this. And here she comes trotting in her white flowered printed, it's just so great. I just love it so much.
I guess they did an interview with Charlaine Harris, and they're like, well, so what do you say is Sookie's style? And she goes, well, she doesn't realize it, but she was really into her grandmother's classic movies of the 50s.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, so it's not exact, but because it's more subliminal for her. But it is that kind of style of, having a matching straw purse and wearing earrings and
it's
being
I'm
tan.
all over it, man. All over it. This is my exact thing, except for the tan part. But
yeah, I mean, honestly, Natasha, I was like, you could go and check out Sookie's closet sometime.
The outfits that she describes, especially when she's like giant round plastic earrings. I'm like, oh yes, honey. That is what I'm talking about. Everything she describes wearing, except at one point she has a Garth Brooks t-shirt, and I was just like, oh, you were doing so well. I guess I'll let you have this one.
Well,
but yeah.
The best is...
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, the best... Well, she does run across different styles as, the 15 books go on, and there are some folks who are in some, haute couture or, business suits or anything, and she's just like...
I don't think so. Yeah, that's one of those, like with fashion and stuff, I can see the appeal of certain things, but I'm definitely like, oh, that would never, no.
That's not touching my body ever. And I'm just sitting here laughing because, like, one of the people that she thinks dresses terribly, I'm like, that's what I have to wear to work every day.
Ouch, Sookie.
It's hilarious. That was the other thing, and I'll say this since we're talking about how she's, how she looks, is that when Anna Paquin got cast in the show, everybody who read the books was furious.
Why?
Because as the books go on, it's very clear that Charlaine Harris talks about the fact that the other waitresses are much skinnier than Sookie. And that they body shame her to some degree.
Oh. Wow, that's not in this book at all, though.
It's hinted at that she's, like, has trouble fitting into things, or that her bikini is smaller, or things like that. But in the next couple of books, like, it was before that they decided to buy the books in the first place and option them, Sookie was canonically not a size 2 by any means. Like, she wasn't a size 16. She was dead in the middle.
Okay. Well, that's kind of nice. I didn't know 16. That.
Yeah. So it was actually something that, like, she worries about things that a lot of women who are not in Hollywood worry about, like paychecks and making statements on time and, hey. Yeah. My stupid brush broke. Crap, I have to buy another one.
That is so specific. Okay.
I had that happen a couple months ago, and I was like, God damn it.
Hey. Oh, there's a cat here. Hello. So going to Fantasia is the first time that she meets Eric, whom we all know as Eric, a.k.a. the hot one.
Yes!
Because Bill in the show, bless your heart, Bill, but I don't get it. And I would never look twice at him.
And she's married to him. No.
But, oh my God.
Yeah.
So Eric is played by one of those brothers. How many of them are there?
Alexander Skarsgård.
There's like 6 of these Skarsgårds.
Not enough. Not enough. There need to be more, and they need to.
And they're all like 20 feet tall.
I know.
And he is like 1,000 years old.
He is, yeah. I have to be careful again.
And he is super tall and gorgeous and just has this like influence that is so strong that when they get there, it seems like Bill sort of has prepared himself mentally for the fact that Sookie may go off with this guy. Like, she doesn't, and we find out that she's got resistance to whatever their glamours are that they use to, like, seduce people and get them to do what they want. But he doesn't know how strong she is yet. He's tried to use his on her, but when you're an older vampire, your glamours are stronger, I guess. So he's thinking it might work on her if it's this guy. And while Sookie can be like, wow, that's the prettiest human being I have ever laid eyes on, it does not make her want to go to him. In fact, she's a little flipped out by him and doesn't really want to talk to him, even though she winds up having to.
Yeah, she can feel him pull. This is the first time she can really feel anybody pull on her because he's got so much power, but she's just like, what the fuck? No.
Yeah, instead of it being this irresistible, like, instead
Sookie.
It's like he's like grabbing her hand and tugging it, like, and she's like, excuse, I'm having a drink, thank you. What are you doing? Like, it's just, it's more irritating than,
exactly it. It's an annoying guy at all.
And I love the combo of him doing this to her while all these other sad sacks come up to Bill and try and like, oh, I've got more, like, I don't even see any bite marks on her. Why don't you, stroking their necks or coming up to him and just like draping themselves over him. There's a dude that comes up to him that when Bill rejects him, the guy like starts crying. Like, just, it's a little bit of a bummer, honestly.
Yeah, and there are also tourists who come into bar to watch the Fanning Bangers interact with the vampires. They're like, so there are tiers of insanity.
It's a pretty,
and by tiers I mean layers.
Right? Yeah, there's that too. And this is another thing that I really like. with Charlaine's exploration of human nature is that this is 100% what would happen. Like, when Sookie starts going into people's minds a little bit, she's surprised that either people, like, she says almost everybody there's thinking about sex, but a lot of the people aren't thinking about having sex. They're thinking about other people having sex and, like, what that means and what that's like and how does it work and why would you want to, and, like, all of the layers around that, rather than it just being like everybody in here is horny. It's like, no, there's like that, but also the preoccupation with, like, why? What is this? Yeah. You know, which seems true.
She calls them all boring. She calls them all boring. And it's like, it almost sounds like she's flipping through pages in a magazine she doesn't like.
Yeah, right. Ugh. And she can't hear... Can she hear Eric's thoughts? Is it just Bill that she can't hear? Or is it all vampires that she can't hear?
She cannot hear any vampire except for one time she can hear Eric. And she keeps that shit to herself.
What does she hear from him?
It is later when they use Sookie as a lie detector test. And they come back to the bar because in this instance, when they're at the bar, Sookie realizes that there's a raid on the bar and the vampires gotta go before they end up in jail. Because there's not supposed to be drinking on the premises of humans. And somebody's in the bathroom doing the obvious thing that's going to happen in a vampire bar.
Yeah, it's basically like they're in the bathroom doing lines of coke. And when I worked as the hostess at a nightclub for a while, and that was part of my job, was to go through the bathrooms every, like, 20 minutes, half an hour or so, and make sure that nobody was doing drugs. And, yeah, they get caught out, which apparently is, like, the whole bar gets held responsible, or whoever's there. So, everybody, even the bartender winds up leaving, which I found sort of hilarious.
Yeah, well, they said that they had given it to some fangbangers to take over. Like, all the waitresses are fangbangers. But all the vampires had to get out because, oddly enough, with a minority group in America...
they may be held responsible.
And on top of which... And also, we should point out that the bartender is also Native American.
Yeah, what is his name again? Long Shadow.
I am here for all the little bits of trivia.
I love it because, like, whenever they would say his name, it would make me think of when Samwise Gamgee calls Strider Longshanks. Give me your Longshanks.
Yeah, I did read Lord of the Rings before this. I never thought of that. That's hilarious.
But yeah, so let's jump ahead to that because, like, Sookie winds up getting away, is not interested in Eric, even though Bill is, like, kind of expecting her to a little bit, low key. They get in the car and they start making out hard, and then they get interrupted by a cop, and luckily she has not been bitten yet, so he asks to see her neck, and she hasn't got any marks on her or anything, which later on that would not have worked out.
But she has no scarf, and she has, like, this little strappy dress, so it's pretty easy for the cop to see, no, sir, we're good people, sir.
Bill can't talk because his fangs are out. Which, their fangs being like treated like an erection is the funniest thing to me. Like, I love it so much. It's such a weird conceit that works so well. It's... Oh, my God.
It's for that and when they're pissed.
Right, yes.
So it's like the, these emotionless creatures, and as soon as they actually have anything,
ciao.
Yeah,
because being horny makes them want to drink, and being enraged and violent feeling makes them want to drink. So it ties together a lot. Who knew? Sexuality and violence. Nobody's put those things together.
Charlaine, you
right? She really has nailed it here. So I keep thinking about in the show when his fangs would come out, and now it'd be like an old lady with her dentures trying to hold them in place. Like, that's how, so yeah, this, like, moment with Eric is kind of cements Sookie as, like, an object of desire for him. He is going to try and get her. And the fact that she is resistant to his glamours, I think, just is like a perk, if anything. You know, he's more into her because of that. And she, well,
can you imagine you finally find somebody that isn't a vampire that you can find out whether they actually like you or not?
What do you mean, find out whether they... Oh, you mean like...
Well, like...
You can tell that they... If they hook up with you, that it's not because of a glamour, it's because they actually want to. I mean...
Yeah, it's not
can't
because...
you just not cast
not
a
that
glamour on them, though?
But they're not into you because you're a like, you're not... Like, it seems to be like either fang bangers are into you, or normal people think you're disgusting, and those are your options. Or you date a vampire, which doesn't seem to happen.
That's true. It seems like vampire couples are just kind of like not really a thing. They're open relationships mostly, it seems.
Yeah, and as Long Shadow says, if you're in the bar, you're looking for death. So the people who are after vampires are kind of not okay. Although I was a little annoyed with that because I had a lot of friends in high school who were goths, and I was the asshole wearing white to the goth club. Because I'm me.
Oh, you.
Luckily, my friends were entertained by this. The rest of the people in the nightclub, not so much, but, you know.
You know, I mean, white is representative of death in certain cultures much more than black is, so...
Exactly. That, and also I showed up to their Vampire the Masquerade LARPing, which I learned what all of that was that day. In a purple t-shirt and, like, you remember those patchwork denim pants that were a thing for about a hot minute?
Oh, Krista. Krista. Girl. No.
Hey, look, I had an ass and I lived in Buffalo, and this was before spandex. Those are the only fucking pair of jeans that
if that
ever
isn't
fit
the
my
truest
body
thing.
ever.
I was talking about this on the Past Sucked episode of Unsober, where it was just like, what did we do before spandex? I can't even imagine. You know, even when we were growing up and spandex wasn't in jeans as much, we at least had other spandex clothes. But imagine it being before it's even invented, and what a nightmare! Like,
well, this was in, I think, 1999.
Oh boy,
it must have been.
Were you partying like it?
No, I was with my mom in the Bon Ton Mall.
Oh my God, really?
No, it's actually the Bon Ton.
I remember Bon Ton. Is that still a place?
Right? Yeah. Well, no, it finally died. But we were in the mall, Boulevard Mall, in the Bon Ton, looking for some jeans, maybe some slacks. That's the Buffalo accent.
Man,
I swear to God.
I'm sorry.
It's awful. So we were looking, and we went to every goddamn store in the mall, and finally we went into a store. And you know, you get to the point where you're not even looking at your surroundings or the name of the store or anything because you're so desperate to find the thing. So we finally find that pair of patchwork pants. And I'm so excited because it looks like they're going to fit. And I go in the dressing room and I put them on, and my mom and I are all excited. And this is my very white Irish mother. And we look at the back wall while everyone is staring at us and see a very large outline of Africa.
Oh, nice.
With the colors painted, you know, black and red and green. And we look around the store and we're like, yeah.
That's the only, like, I always had to get, like, apple bottom jeans where I had to make a special trip into New Haven because that's where the urban stores were. I could not fucking buy jeans at American Eagle. Like, no.
That wasn't, I enjoyed that one part of living in Bridgeport.
Yeah, there you go. Like,
that, and also entertaining the rest of the neighborhood about explaining about sunburns. It
really is one of those things that it's like, I don't realize until I look back as an adult, like, how like, well, that's a whole other podcast. All right, so.
Yeah. So, in any case.
She gets summoned. First of all, Eric wants to use her for an internal matter. You see how I phrased that? Because it has two meanings. At the club, money has gone missing, and he thinks that he knows who took it. He has somebody that he's been questioning when Sookie comes in. And Sookie makes a deal with him that, like, first of all, if I find out who did this, you are not allowed to just kill them. That's not going to happen. You need to call the police. That's how this is going to work. Also, I'll keep doing this for you, as long as you, like, abide by that one rule. Because I can't be responsible for telling you some shit that gets somebody killed. So if we're okay with that, then we can have, like, a working relationship of this kind. And he sort of gives her a look like, oh, really? You're going to be super generous and do the thing that I can make you do anyway? And she's like, wouldn't you rather that I did it willingly instead of you making me? And he's like, well, true.
And she also points out you're trying to mainstream, and this is the only way to do that.
Yeah, you can't have people working for you and suddenly vanishing. Like, that's going to get around.
Yeah. Oh, mainstreaming. Mainstreaming means getting along with the humans.
Which is what Bill is trying to do that Bill's nesting friends have not tried to do. And we haven't really talked about that, but we'll talk about that in a second.
I don't like
that. So this thing, the first dude that they think took it, she reads his mind and realizes that not only did he not take it, but he's really wishing he hadn't worked with vampires in the first place because he just did it because he was greedy. Which I really enjoyed that internal model of him just being like, it was fucking pure greed. That's all it was. I can't believe I put myself in this fucking position. Like, yeah, dude, you know what? That might be a little accurate. Rethink that. And then she goes and reads the mind of a human waitress. And she has this weird block that when Sookie tries to push her, the girl starts screaming and flipping out. And it becomes very clear to the vampires that this is some sort of, like, glamour that's been put on her to make her forget something. And when Sookie, like, questions the second woman who knows who that first one has been hanging out with all the time, she's about to say the vampire's name out loud when that vampire jumps her and tries to kill her. This is Long Shadow, and I'm just so disappointed in you, Long Shadow.
I am too. What the fuck is wrong with you, dude?
Like, and apparently, like, the story after is that he was, like, going to try and start his own business or do something, right?
That was their guess, that he needed money for something and decided instead of just, asking for a loan, which Eric would have the money to do, he was going to embezzle it because he was too proud.
So he tries to kill Sookie, and
what is that going to
honestly,
gain
like,
you
know that everybody's going to realize what you just tried to kill her for, right? Like, but
like, why don't you just get the fuck out? It's just,
I guess, his panic reaction. And Eric stakes him while he's on top of Sookie, and this dude pops like a fucking water balloon before finally, like, disappearing, but a lot of blood gets in Sookie's mouth. Like, a lot. Yeah. And it leads to her looking real good for, like, the next week or so. Everybody's being like, what did you do? Are you on a diet? Did you change your hair? What's going on? You've been working out? Like, but yeah, this is a pretty brutal moment, honestly.
Yeah, it's, I mean, even when you know it's coming, you're just like, oh god, this is gonna be so gross. Ew. Yep. And she keeps Eric to his word that he can't hurt any of the humans.
Yes. And, there's nobody really that he should, like, be hurting anyway, because this was all Long Shadow and Glamours. Like, nobody did voluntarily, like, screwed this dude. So,
Well, she gets mad that he didn't turn Long Shadow over to the police and just killed him. But as it's pointed out, he actually just saved her life.
Yeah, what? I was so annoyed with her when she started. I was so glad the first thing Bill said was like, hi, he was killing you. What are you talking about?
Yeah. And also, it's different than the show where Bill kills him instead. And
right,
Eric,
yeah. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
Which has long-standing consequences if you go down that road.
Yeah. Well, so Eric decides to reward Bill for his service by bringing Sookie down by, like, just dropping off some girl on his front porch.
Ginger.
And Bill thinks that it's a combo of things. One, yeah, he really did want to say thank you, but also he was hoping to sow discord between me and Sookie because he wants Sookie, and if she's not loyal to me anymore, then she'll be more interested and willing.
Yeah.
So...
Because he's a boy.
Yeah. So he doesn't, like, take this, he just sends this girl back who seems distinctly disappointed. She claims that she's a rare vintage, and Bill's like, yeah, all right.
And who takes her home?
Who does take her home? Is it Jason?
Of course it's Jason.
He's so predictable. So, all right, let's talk about the nest.
Okay, I hate this part. I don't like it.
I don't remember any of these characters' names.
Okay, so there's Diane.
I thought one of them was Diane, but that seemed like such a pedestrian name. But okay. Bill is pretty fucking pedestrian, so.
I know, she makes fun of it, which is the best part. There's Malcolm.
Okay, right.
And there's the third one who's so disgusting I block him out on a regular basis.
So you don't remember who he is? What his name is?
No,
it's fine. It doesn't matter. I just wanted to double check.
I can't take him. He's so gross.
So yeah, there's these three, and like she goes over to see Bill, and they're staying at this house, and it's not Bill's house, is it? It is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's the old Compton home that he inherited.
So he's got them over, which I really was judging him that he would like let them stay with him. They are behaving very badly, and it's like
yes.
Even though it's Bill's house that they are staying at, and even though Sookie is Bill's guest that he is telling them to leave alone, they almost don't. They don't really give a shit about what he has to say or his ownership of her, even though that's supposed to mean something. And
yeah, it seems like they're trying to ruin him for wanting to be with humans, that they're so angry with him that they want him to
yeah, the fact that he's interested in Sookie in like a real way, and he's interested in mainstreaming, which they have like nothing but disdain for. So they're doing things on purpose around the town to rile up anti-vampire sentiment on purpose. Just like acting up and going and being too loud and like really putting on display that they're like drinking people. I think Diane like goes into a nightclub and dances naked or something.
Yeah, and there are other things that shouldn't bother people but do, like the fact that Diane is black and making out with Malcolm, and then Malcolm is making out with Jerry, who's a dude. So those things also piss everyone off because that is not normal, and fuck you. So, there's a couple of things where I'm like, fine, Nest, you had some points, but did you have to go there? Murdering.
And they come into Merlotte's at one point and like really poke and prod Sookie, trying to like get a rise out of her. Like there's just a lot of moments where I wanted Bill to do more than he did. He just doesn't stick up for her with these guys the way that I wanted him to. And what winds up happening is Sookie can hear the thoughts of people who are planning on having some sort of like showdown with these vampires. And by showdown, I mean attack them while they're asleep, because that's the only way they can hope to do anything. And she knows that there is one person who has instigated this and riled the town up to do this, because it's not something that anybody that she knows would have like, this crowd, as far as she's concerned, wouldn't have come up with this idea on their own. And after, she also hears some of them regretting what they've done and wondering what came over them that they agreed to it in the first place. So it seems like she's a little bit right, that there was some sort of rabble-rouser. But they all go down to Bill's house and burn the fucking place to the ground.
They go down to Malcolm's house.
So they were at Bill's house, but they weren't staying there.
No. They came over basically to give him shit.
Okay.
And then Sookie showed up to give him the contact info for the contractors to get his electricity fixed. And that's when they came in and were like, so, girl.
Yeah, okay. And she's worried that Bill's there. So there's like a full day of her flipping out because she will never know if he's alive until the sun goes down and he can move around. And she just has to wait, which really is awful.
Yeah. And your least favorite person in the book is there to help her.
Listen.
He doesn't put a move on her.
I appreciated that he handles it the way that he does. Except that he is kind of a dick, but he's a dick. Like, I excuse it because there are certain mindsets in which you need somebody to, like, whip you out of your funk. And the only way for them to do that is to sort of be harsh with you. So he comes over and Sam is just like well, this house is a mess. How did you let it get like this? Look at these curtains. Girl, we need to clean up. What on earth? And like takes down curtains that she knows for a fact Graham washed like a week ago. And yeah,
they're wiping down blinds and polishing silver, and he's changing the radio so she doesn't hear the news, and like he's doing a lot of effort on his day off as a business owner.
So the house is sparkling clean by the time they're done. And then she finds out that Bill is, of course, fine. But, you know, it really is like, as much as I know he's going to be fine, the writing of her, like, panic and pain over it is very well done. Because I would just be a complete disaster, you know? The only thing I could think to get through would be, like, knock myself out, get drunk and, like, fall asleep until, you know, nighttime rolls around.
And that's what Sam suggests at first is, you know, do you have any sleeping pills? And when she goes out to the house to see what happened, the cops and the firefighters and everything are laughing about the fact that these vampires are dead, and there are 4 coffins, which turns out to be some random vampire was there. And like, oh, Southern fried vampires, and ha ha ha, and this, that, the other thing, and she just loses it and launches herself at the guy, and Sam has to pull her away.
Like these are the moments that I'm like, Sookie, I love you. You're great.
Like, cause her character is very honest about, you know, you're like, yep, there's very rare moments in, at least that I'm remembering, where you're like, what the fuck were you thinking?
Yeah, there are a couple, but mostly like, all right, so her grandmother dying.
I realized we skipped over that part.
Like we kind of talked about it a little already, so that's why. But she winds up coming home from. She went to the speech that Bill gave to the Glorious Undead group with Sam, and comes home after. Gets dropped off, and Sam kisses her. And it's a good kiss, but she's so, like, thrown by the fact that he's her boss, and she's just really uncomfortable with it, and kind of stops him.
She has feelings for Bill, and
so she goes inside, and her grandmother isn't around. Something feels wrong, and she goes from room to room and finds her finally, like, completely sliced up in the kitchen, blood everywhere, which is not how it is in the show, where...
Yeah, it is.
But isn't her cat dead at the same time? And
no, the cat... I don't know about the show with the cat.
I feel like the cat was at the same time because she feels something hit her face, and the cat has been tied to the overhead fan and the blood from it spatters all over. And I think the cat and the Gran were killed at the same time.
As opposed to this version where the cat is at a different time. Because fuck Renee.
Renee so much.
Fucking taking everything.
So that moment in the show when she turns the light on and gets spattered is such a fucking shocking, horrifying, and it's such a bizarre thing to have done, to tie the cat to the ceiling fan, that your brain can't process what you're seeing because it doesn't make any sense. So she turns the light on and the fan starts up and the blood whips into her face, and you're just like, what the fuck is this? Like, you're so confused by it.
Yeah, and I saw it and I went, oh no, it's gonna be Tina.
Yeah, like, I am really surprised at the order that it happens in the book, that it's her grandma first and Tina second, because you'd really think the cat would be first, that it would be like a ramp up. Well, but instead it's grandma by accident, like she wasn't supposed to be the one. And then the cat as like a warning.
I don't think it's a warning so much as I am going to do this.
That's a warning.
Like more of a, well, I don't think it's a warning so much as a statement, because a warning means stop this or I will kill you. And it's clear he's already killed her grandma. He's killed all these other women. Okay. She's going to go.
Yeah, I feel like a warning is just being like, it's coming. But I see what you mean. So the death of her grandma is really rough, and she decides to stay in the house, which one of her friends is like, but your grandma was killed here. And she's like, I have way better memories than I have bad memories. Like, and then she moves into her grandmother's room too, which one of her friends thinks is a little sudden, but she feels like she's grown up. And I like that too, the way that her mind works with all of this. So when we have the final like confrontation between her and Renee, and we're going to have to wrap this up because we are on Crowdcast just was like, hey, stop.
30 minutes.
The first thing that like I initially started to do, because Elvis is apparently a fucking vampire. This isn't in the show, is it?
No, it's not, especially because Elvis is mentally disabled as a vampire.
This is such a fucking... I don't know.
It's awesome.
Like, I kept thinking this isn't what I think, is it? And then when she says something about how Blue or Hawaiian Christmas or something is on TV.
Blue Moon. Blue Moon. Yeah.
So...
Bubba is the best. Bubba stays in the series for quite some time. I give no fucks.
I am very, very sad to hear that. Bubba is assigned to watch her while Bill's away to keep an eye on her. But Bubba has a weakness for cats.
Yeah.
And he says this in front of Renee at one point because apparently Bubba does not know to keep a low profile and just busts out in front of the house talking to Sookie in a real loud voice while Renee and what's her name are there picking up their kids.
Arlene, yeah.
And so Renee hears this and drugs a cat so that when Bubba drinks it, it will affect him and he will go down, which is an interesting thing that drugs affect vampires that way.
Yeah.
But so Bubba winds up not being any good in the end. But she's in the house and she can tell there's somebody outside trying the doors and she's locked things. And so she goes to get, and this was the thing, because at first she's like, should I stay inside or should I like try and flee to the woods? And I'm like, why would you fucking try to flee to the woods? You fucking moron. Oh my God, stay in the house. What the fuck is the matter with you? But then she goes to get the shotgun and it's gone. And it's clear whoever did this had access to her house, that maybe they did it at Grandma's funeral. Maybe they did it like God knows how many other times people have been over. And they just took it out of the closet and put it outside so that she was going to be totally helpless. So does she have a baseball bat or something? What does she have that she's carrying around? Which is not going to be enough. Like, it could be if she got the drop on somebody. But Renee is clearly like some sort of other level of malevolent where I don't think she could get the drop on him, you know? Nope. But I don't, you don't know that at this point. So the fact that she decides to leave the house would still have made me angry, except that we get led through her thought process as to how if he gets in the house, wherever I go, I'm going to be trapped. And then, if anything happens, like the phone line has been cut. I can't call for help.
This is back when cell phones were way too expensive for somebody like Sookie.
Yeah, so she's like, really, we get walked through her reasons for going outside and how she really thinks through what her like modus operandi is going to be when she gets out of the house, where she's going to head, how she's going to hide, what she's going to try and do, get to the road, hail down help. Is that road even busy enough? Should I head that way? Should I go this other way? Like, I like that we get to see her really think it through in a way that I feel like often doesn't happen in moments like this in books or even TV. Yeah. People just do these like blind, foolish things and I'm like, you had time. This guy wasn't on top of you yet. He was still outside. You could have thought this over and you just flipped out and ran, which don't get me wrong. I do understand, but like, it's just something admirable to me about how level-headed she manages to be in this moment.
Yeah.
Is this how it goes down in the show?
Mostly it's during the daytime because they make it so Bill can't come help.
Right.
And that's an easier way to do things. Because again, I have a feeling that the people who own the rights to Elvis's likeness are not going to be fond of something that makes him look like Bubba. Bubba's so awesome. Cats.
Listen, you can't just say Bubba's so awesome and leave out the fact that he's eating cats. You don't get to.
Yeah, he drinks blood and does what he's told almost all the time. So he had his squirt bottle of blood.
Anyway.
It gets more entertaining, I promise. It's not a Stephen King kind of world. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know what that means in this context.
Like, there's not 20 dead dogs constantly.
Oh, yeah, that. Jesus, that's true. So she winds up running outside. She manages to sort of like, he doesn't track her down initially until she like falls at one point by accident. Like, she's very careful. But it's dark. She can't use a flashlight because that's going to like show him where she is. And she's also trying to kind of pursue him and get into his mind so that she can figure out who this is and go to the cops later, assuming she gets out of this alive. So,
and also to avoid him, because then she'll know where he is. Like, this is all like, this is her paying attention to 5 different things at once.
Which is another thing I liked, that she's going to go into his head to see what he's seeing, so she knows exactly where he's heading. So, yeah, this is just so interesting, the way it's written. And as she goes into his head, she sees, because his guard is down now, since he's aiming to kill her, him murdering the other women. And one of the other women is Renee's sister.
Yeah. Who
was a fang banger, and he like flipped out about it. And he rapes her corpse too.
Yes.
Even though, and there's like a moment in his head as she's like seeing this memory where he's like, well, it's my sister, but she fucked vampires, so whatever. You know, just like, it's really, really gross.
Yeah. Yeah, not even Game of Thrones made it this gross.
You know, there's something about knowing how innocent Sookie can be, too, seeing this. Like, I'm just like, oh, Sookie, sweetie, I am sorry. You know, just like, oh.
I know. Because poor little thing. I mean, like, you know, how she ends up being the way she is just as much as bizarre that Lafayette in the books is as excited and happy and sweet as he seems to be. Because you're just like, how the fuck do you do that? How are you not bitter?
So he winds up spotting her, and she takes off running, and he's running after her, and he very nearly kills her. How exactly does it go down that she winds up getting the upper hand? What does she do?
I think...
I'm trying to remember exactly how it goes, because it looks like he's choking her. Like, she's almost passing out.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. She pulls the knife.
That's right. He's carrying the knife. And as she pulls it, he's thinking to himself, I should have taken that off. Which I just love that like thought. It's not even like, oh shit. It's like, why do I still have that? It's like, it's such a weirdly like pedestrian thought to have in that moment. And she stabs him with it, and we find out later, like, he made it, right? He's still alive. And he just tells them everything. Which is kind of hilarious to me. I don't know why, but I guess it's just so unexpected.
It is. Well, it also helps because Jason was framed for the murders.
Right, true. Yeah, we didn't really talk about that, but like how everything was done, all the murders were done when Jason was off work, and it was always women that he had slept with and been seen with recently, and there's like sex tapes that have been turning up surprisingly because Jason's a precious little cinnamon roll who doesn't understand how to live his life.
Yeah, even after it's been said, hey, look, we have these sex tapes of you with women, he makes another one, and that girl dies, and it's just like, oh, Jason. You know? If he had a middle name, I'd be saying it right now, Jason.
Yeah, so he confesses to everything. And I like the moment when Arlene comes in the room and she like looks like she's mad for a sec, and then she sees Sookie and immediately is like, oh my God, this really happened. Because she doesn't want to believe this about the guy that,
why would you?
Like, so she's prepared to like call Sookie a liar. You can see on her face, like, that's what she's... And then she sees Sookie and is just like, Jesus Christ. Oh, my God, okay. I guess I need to completely break down right now because this is incredibly fucked up. I've been fucking a murderer, a serial killer, rapist.
Corpse rapist.
Incestuous corpse rapist.
With corpse rapist. Like, you can't, I don't know what it, like, if they were of age is the only thing you can say.
Yeah, and the fact that his sister is dead is not even, like, it's not like she was part of the murder investigation. People thought she was fine because he kept talking about how he was going and visiting her. So he had just hidden the body and nobody knew she was even dead. So Arlene talks about his sister and how she's doing fine and,
she's working at she's working at a cafeteria, and maybe she should apply to work at Merlotte's now that they have an opening.
And then other women who have died in similar ways in neighboring towns start to come up, and, it turns out that it has not just been these ladies either.
Nope. And the only two people to ever fight back were Sookie and her grandma.
Yeah, which I'm like, that seems crazy to me. But
well, I think the grandma threw him off, and she was in her own kitchen, not in a bedroom.
Right, true.
And I think that's kind of a huge thing. And the other part being that Sookie knows exactly what this fucking guy is going to do, whereas all the other women, were thinking they were going to have sex with the guy. Or they caught off guard entirely.
Yeah, he might have come in while they were asleep even, right? Did that happen with one, I feel like?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Well, all the women had sex, and it wasn't clear necessarily if any of it was before they were dead, so.
So there's one other guy that I want to touch on real quick, which is Sookie's ex, who's super dumb. JB, that's it. JB is such a weird little and enjoyable addition because he's fine as hell. And every time Sookie sees him, she's just like, oh, dear God, why can't I just not hear your thoughts? It would be great if I could just screw you, because look at you. But unfortunately, she can hear what he's thinking, and he's never thinking anything much. And
stupid. Well, she says that that's actually an attraction to him because he's so stupid that it's not really a problem necessarily, but he's just so boring to talk to.
And like when he sees her, he's like, man, I forgot how cute Sookie is. I sure would like to screw her. Like the whole way he thinks, it's like he's thinking dirty thoughts, but in this bizarrely wholesome way that's somehow more disturbing. And he slept with the girl that they find dead, that Sookie finds.
Dawn.
And he had slept with her, and Dawn asked him to hit her. And he's, like, thinking back on the fact that she asked for that and how, like, it had been kind of exciting that she wanted to do something so strange to him, but also that he's, like, ashamed of it.
He was emasculated because he couldn't do it. He couldn't make
Oh, that's right. So he's thinking about how exciting it is that she was murdered is kind of part of it, is that he's just like, wow, I do feel really bad for her, but this is kind of wild, huh? Like, and yeah, you're right. He couldn't hit her, which is kind of sweet.
Yeah.
He's just like,
yeah, there's kind of a, no, you don't do that to a lady. I can't, even if,
I know you're asking me, but like,
it's like this.
Yeah.
His little circuit's fried, and he's only got 2.
He really does. If that.
I know. I love him so much. His character is great.
So I love, like, he comes in to visit Sookie at the end, and obviously, like, with an aim to ingratiating himself so he can ask her out again. And she sort of turns him towards the doctor that's been working on her. Because it's this attractive woman who's single.
She's a widow, and she, for the last 6 months, because they talked about they both lost somebody important to them. And yeah, so that's when Sookie's like, wait a minute, I bet you this very over-harried doctor could use a good screw. A good, simple screw is just what this doctor needs to order. Yeah, so I like that moment a lot. It's like such a weird little thing, but I was just like, oh, that's Sookie. Yeah, and, she's beat to shit. She's on, like, pain medication. She's, like, nearly died, lost everything, and she's like,
still playing matchmaker.
My doctor was nice, and JB's a moron.
But he's a good-hearted moron.
He really is. He's, like, just a sweetheart.
Yeah.
And she would know.
That's true. So yeah, that's pretty much the book. Is there anything that we didn't cover? I feel like that's everything.
There was one thing I was just thinking while we were talking about JB, and now I'm trying to remember what it is. Uncle Bartlett.
Oh my God, I couldn't believe how long it took her to put that together. This is, and this really ties in because I just got the notification that Brett Kavanaugh has been confirmed, so that's fun.
Of course he was.
But Sookie was molested by her uncle, and her mother did not believe her. Her brother did not believe her, but her grandmother did. And her grandmother made sure that she never had to be around that man again. And that man was her grandmother's brother.
Yep. He had apparently messed with Sookie's Aunt Linda, who was, Grandma's daughter, and made sure they were never alone again. But then when it happened again, she's just like, get the fuck out of my life for good.
And when she tells Bill about this, he kind of freezes up a little bit. Like, I'm sorry, what? And then in the morning, Jason comes over and is like, so our uncle died during a burglary. Craziest thing. And she just so doesn't fucking think of it.
After she's seen what he did to the Rattray's place, and that he has he said multiple times, I have no compunction in killing humans. This does not bother me.
Which I kind of like. It's not like, oh, I can't bear the thought of hurting a human. Like, that's not him at all. It's just that he wants a good reason. That's really what it is. It's like, if there's a reason, that's fine. I'm not doing it for fun. But yeah, this, and the way that she tells Bill about it is like listening. I was at the gym during that section when I was listening on my headphones, and I was like kind of freaking out. Just the way that she's delivering her lines is so emotional, and she's just being like, what was the worst thing is he would show up at the door and I'd hear what he was going to do to me, and I would know that there was no way to stop him. And like, I just was sitting there like, oh my God, this is too much right now. I'm at the gym at 7 a.m.
And this is right after they had sex
I think so.
Because she had been a virgin up to him.
And he heals her with some of his vampire blood. He like puts it inside her to heal her up so that she can have sex again sooner. Because she's just like, no, I would like to, can we, which I thought was pretty funny. Yeah. But yeah, then when Jason tells her that her uncle's dead, she's like, oh, awesome. Thank God. And he's super pissed at her and still thinks that she's making it up until she tells him that he went after Aunt Linda also. And that like draws him up short and makes him kind of, obviously rethink everything. And in conjunction with the fact that he slapped her when her grandmother died. Yeah. Jason, I am very not a fan of yours at the moment. I'm sure that you can be like Jason, a good dude in many ways, but you are a fucking child mostly. And you are not in disagreement with most of the fans and many of the characters, if that helps you. So yeah. But you also you have to, I don't know, I feel for Jason too, in that he has no way he doesn't seem to have an emotional barometer. He has no one left for him because he can't really settle down on a person at all to be for a relationship. And he's kind of, Hoyt is fairly similar to the show that he's not so bright. Yes. So they kind of put JB and Hoyt together in the show while they didn't take the best looking part of JB and put him on the show, which I find hilarious for TV. I don't even remember who plays him. Hoyt is great. I'll send you a picture. I'm looking at pictures of Sam Merlot now. He's so pretty. And on top of which, the guy who plays him apparently is the nicest guy in show business. Oh, as long as I don't have to hear about him sexually harassing women. How about that? The bar is so fucking low. I swear to God. But yeah, so the interesting thing is that Uncle Bartlett leaves them both
a legacy, as Sookie calls it, leaves Sookie, who's a waitress and does not have a lot of money, $20,000 fucking dollars, and she sends it for treatment of child molestation,
which is
victims.
amazing.
It's like, won't touch the money.
Because she almost doesn't take it, and then she's just like, what the fuck? Of course, I gotta take this. Like, I'm not just gonna let it sit there. But then she donates it, and I was like, wow, that is big of you, because I would not do that. I would be like, yeah, you owe me some money. Yeah. That's the minimum of what you owe me. Give me. So.
Yeah, so we had an uncle like that in my mom's family, and when he died, I cheered.
Yeah. I have no, like, I don't know if you heard that somebody left kind of negative review on our Dresden Files show because I cheered when somebody died. I got a Facebook notification or something that Hugh Hefner died, and I was like, oh, Hugh Hefner died. Awesome. And Sean just went, really? And I went, yeah. And she goes, all right, so in the next chapter, Harry, and we just like completely left it with just awesome. And somebody left a review and was just like, well, I just thought that was not like an appropriate response. And I'm like, not sorry. Some people, the world is better without the end.
Yeah, that's been the door to all these people being found out, as many people have theorized. But yeah, other people in our family were really, really sad, and it was a big funeral and all this other shit. And then there were the people that nobody believed sitting here going, and those of us who believed them going, burn, motherfucker, burn.
Amen.
And on that happy note, I really hope you do like the next book. I'm so glad you liked this
this was a lot of fun. And like I said, I want to do the next audiobook, and I won't be doing a podcast on it, but maybe I'll comment on it in the book club group if anybody's on there on Facebook.
If only I could afford to pay you to do this.
Oh, for Spoil Me. Well, you can go in the Spoil Me group and see if anybody wants to commission it on your behalf.
I know. Ugh, once I get my shit in order. But yeah, that would be amazing. Just to let you know, for housekeeping, do you want to count down with me from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? Because the editing will be kind of fucked up otherwise.
Oh no, it's fine. I've done this. It'll be fine. Okay. There's no countdowns. If anything, can mess things up more for me, because then I'm like trying to match that up.
Okay, because I fucked up when I pressed the.
Oh no! That's fine. I'll be able to match that up. Is there anything you want to plug before we wrap?
Sure. Always doing the constant, about to cover the last episode of season 5. I am more sad that I'm going to be ending this project with Jamie. As you understand now, working on a project of Jamie with your own with Doctor Who. She is fantastic to cover things with. I also just covered Transformers the movie and Assassination Nation on the Film Find. 2 movies that could not have anything less to do with each other if they tried. The only thing they have in common is that they're both in English.
All right, fair.
Like literally nothing else. And if you want to go see Assassination Nation, I think that's a good plan, but you should read what the trigger warnings are ahead of time, because they're not kidding, and I had to leave the theater halfway through to throw up and then come back in because it's that upsetting. Yes, I've never done that before. It was unpleasant. It's a really good movie.
Wow.
Transformers. Yeah. So.
I had to leave halfway through Transformers to throw up.
Well, you've got the touch. You've got the power. Yeah.
God.
But we've grown a we've ninny bomb.
All right, everybody. Well, with that, you guys know where to find us. Facebook.com/unspoiledpod, Twitter @unspoiledshow, Instagram @unspoiledpodcast. You can come to our website and find out more at unspoiledpodcast.com. If you do unspoiledpodcast.com/book club list, you can see I'm going to be making my new list for the new year soon. But the next book for November is The Martian by Andy Weir. I'm not sure how you say his name. But I don't think I have a co-host for that yet, so I will keep you all posted on that. And the next book club for childhood favorites is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
I have not read
Yeah, that was the one that I said last time was going to be coming up, but I was wrong, and I had skipped the Redwall which it actually turned out to be. Totally. But yeah, so I haven't read Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret since I was like 14, maybe even younger. So 20 years. So that'll be interesting to revisit.
You pumpkin. You're
Look
so
at how cute your cat is. Ah.
Are you the cutest? You gonna wave hi?
Oh my God.
Say hi.
All right, guys. We love you. Thank you for listening. And we will see you soon with a new episode. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.
Unspoiled Network Podcast.